Hi, children. I'm Vicky Carlton, and I love reading kids' stories. I also like to try and write stories as well, and I'm sure you probably enjoy writing stories too. I've got a special wintry book for you today, and you can see there's a winter scene behind me, lots and lots of snow. I love snow. We don't see much snow in Western Australia, but when I was a little girl, I lived in England and we saw lots and lots of snow, and I had to walk through it to get to school quite often. This story is a wintry story, and it's called A Big Quiet House. And it's a Yiddish folk tale from Eastern Europe, and it's retold by Heather Forrest. And the pictures, the illustrations are by Susan Greenstein. It is an amazing little story. And it's all about looking at your problems. Sometimes you can get a problem and it can seem really, really big. And then when you stand back from it a bit and you look at it in a different way, you realize that maybe it's not such a big problem after all. Okay, so let me just open it up. There once was a man whose house was very small. It was cluttered with things from wall to wall. Every day he would say in a miserable way, I need more room. Right? Do you ever feel that your bedroom or your house is a bit cluttered? I do sometimes because I sort of collect a lot of things and I've got bits of paper and books and everything all over the place. One night, the man tossed and turned in his bed. His wife snoring and his children giggling really annoyed him. He covered up his ears and he grumbled, there's too much noise. If I had a big, quiet house, I'd be able to sleep. So he lay awake and he thought about the wise old woman who lived at the edge of the village. Perhaps she can solve my problems, he muttered. He threw off the covers and he jumped out of bed and he went to see the wise old woman. So he was really, really annoyed by everything and he couldn't get to sleep. So he thought, maybe if I go and see the wise old woman, she could help me. So he knocked at the door. The lady slowly opened the door and said, it's the middle of the night. Why are you here? I can't sleep, complained the man. My wife snores the whole night through. My children annoy me by giggling. What is a tired man supposed to do? Can you possibly solve my problem? I need a big, quiet house. Well, the old woman, she scratched her head and she considered for a moment and then she said, solve your problem? Yes, I can. But first, I must think of a plan. And that's important, isn't it? If we've got a problem, we have to think of a plan to solve it. Her face spread with a smile. Go home and bring a big red chicken in the house with you, she suggested. A chicken? Asked the man, a bit bewildered. He's wondering why on earth he would need to get a chicken. Let's find out on the next page. But he went home and he did as she told him to do. He was the wisest woman. She knew. He knew. He caught his big red squawking chicken and he brought her into the kitchen and he let her go. The chicken strutted under the table. How is a chicken going to make my house bigger? He wondered. He went to his room, he climbed into his bed, he pulled the covers to his chin, and he tried to fall asleep. So how do you think that chicken could possibly make his house bigger? Have a think. What do you think? Meanwhile, the big red chicken crept out from under the table wandered into the children's room and began noisily pecking the son and the daughter. Bop, 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 bop. The wife tumbled with a thump onto the floor and chased the chicken. Feathers were flying. The children were crying. The wife was sighing, and the man couldn't sleep. He threw off his covers, he jumped out of bed, and he went to the wise old woman's house. What do you think he was going to say to that wise old woman? Because now he's got feathers flying, he's got a big red chook in his house, and he's got his kids and his wife running around. He knocked impatiently at her door. It's the middle of the night, she said. Go to sleep. That's impossible, he moaned. I bought a big, red, noisy chicken in the house with me. Feathers are flying, my children are crying, my wife is sighing, and I can't sleep. Can you solve the problem? I need a big, quiet house. The old woman said, solve your problem? Yes, I can. I just didn't tell you the whole plan. She considered for a moment and suggested, now, go home and bring a goat or horse, a cow, and a sheep in the house with you. A goat, a horse, a cow, and a sheep? The man exclaimed. How could that possibly help him to get a bigger house? What do you think? How could that possibly help him? But he went home and he did as she told him to do. She was the wisest woman he knew. He herded a goat, a horse, a cow, and a sheep into his house. Can you imagine if you had all those things inside your house and a big red chicken as well? Then, climbing clumsily over the animals, he got into his bed, he pulled the covers right up to his chin, and he tried to fall asleep. Do you think he'll be able to fall asleep now that he's got all those things inside his house? I hope he can, because he really needs some sleep. The sheep began to loudly sing. Baa! The goat chimed in with a lively baa. The cow joined in with a melodious and the horse snorted and grandly sang too. The singing and the snorting woke up the big red chicken, who wandered into the children's room and began noisily pecking his son and daughter. Ba-bok, ba-bok, ba-bok. Well, the wife tumbled with a thump onto the floor and chased the chicken. Feathers were flying, the children were crying, the wife was sighing, and the man couldn't sleep. The man couldn't sleep. My goodness, you can hear my dog barking in the background now as well. He threw off his covers, he jumped out of bed, and he climbed over the animals and went to the wise old woman's house. There he goes. Poor guy, he really, really, really wants to get some sleep, right? He's got all those things happening, and now he's got my dog barking in the background as well. He knocked loudly, like really loudly, on her door. She opened it and she yawned. It's the middle of the night. You should be asleep. That's impossible, the man shouted. How can I sleep with a chicken, a goat, a horse, a cow, and a sheep? There is no room to walk in my house anymore. Animals are everywhere from wall to door. It is even noisier than before. Feathers are flying, my children are crying, my wife is sighing, and I can't sleep. You said you could solve my problem. I need a big, quiet house. The old woman replied, solve your problem? I can. I just didn't tell you the whole plan. Now put all the animals back where they belong. How weird. Good idea, exclaimed the man. So now she's telling him to put all the animals back where they belong. How that's going to solve his problem. He went home, he gathered the animals, and he herded them all into the barn. Then he returned to his house and he opened the door. So what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen now? Let's have a look. To his amazement, his house was not small anymore. He stared with wonder at the rooms. Now that all the animals were gone, his house seemed so empty, it looked remarkably bigger. Have a look at it. With all the animals gone, it just seemed so much bigger. He climbed into his bed and he pulled the covers up to his chin. Without the singing and the snorting of the animals in the next room, his house was so quiet he could hear the gentle snoring of his dear wife beside him. Didn't even bother him. He heard his children giggling too. That didn't bother him either. Those ordinary sounds were no longer noise. They were music to his ears. You see, his problem, he realised, was not so big. He smiled and thought, what a big, quiet house. Next time I moan the whole day long, complaining about what is going wrong, I will stop and count my blessings first. You know, it always could be worse. And with a sigh, he fell asleep. There's a real lesson in that book, isn't there? A real lesson that, you know, sometimes when we're moaning and complaining about everything, maybe we should stop. Maybe we should stop and count our blessings. So right now, think, what are 5 fantastic blessings for you today? All right, have a little think. So I'm having a think. It's a bit cold here because it's the middle of winter. So one of my blessings is there's a heater on. So that's keeping me warm. Another one is my nice warm jacket. Another one is I've got my little dog to cuddle. She's very warm and cuddly. She looks like a sheep at the moment. That's 3. Oh, number 4 is the lunch I'm going to have soon. I'm going to have something delicious for lunch. And number 5 are the children that I'm going to see soon for teaching. So I have got a lot of blessings in my life. So think of 5 blessings, and maybe you could draw a picture of 5 things that you're grateful for, 5 blessings that you have today. So thank you for listening to this story. I think it's really an amazing story, and it reminds us to just step back from our problems and to look at our blessings as well as our problems. Really important to do that. Bye and see you soon.
For more of Victoria Carlton's tips, go to YouTube and search Victoria Carlton Programs. Victoria's products are available on Teachers Pay Teachers. They cover literacy, emotional intelligence, and Sunday school lessons. Victoria's website address, blog, and email address are on the screen in front of you. Victoria Carlton reserves the right of copyright on all her products.